It all started with a diary of an old man who was living in a rural village. One day, a stranger walked into the village carrying with him a gigantic sword. It was hate at first sight for our narrator, but there was a certain determination burning in the stranger's eyes that even the narrator himself couldn't help but notice. Despite the narrator's hope that the village elder would reject the hooded stranger, he was accepted easily and welcomed warmly. Now, it's been 4 days since the new neighbor arrived, yet he keeps mostly to himself, as quiet as a mouse. Some nosy villagers try to befriend the stranger, but they aren't successful, and it seems like he doesn't care. A week passes, then 10 days, and finally, the narrator discovers what the stranger does. Village kids reveal that the stranger practices with his sword every day. The narrator had suspected from the beginning that the stranger must have some backstory, but he wasn't interested. A month passes since the stranger arrived, and talks of him diligently practicing with his sword remain a popular topic in the village. The narrator still refuses to witness the man practice. Another month goes by, and another, with villagers creating various stories about the mysterious stranger. Despite the rumors, the narrator remains uninterested in the man's backstory. Now, it's been 6 months since the stranger first arrived, consistently training with his sword. The narrator finally decides he has to see the man wielding the sword for himself. He wants to know if the stranger is a skilled swordsman, the speed of his technique, and his strength. The next day arrives, and the narrator observes the stranger's skills, deeming them pretty basic and nothing out of the ordinary. After some time, a new family arrives in town, including a mercenary, his son, and a daughter named Rema. The narrator becomes smitten with Rema and plans to make a move on her the next day. Meanwhile, the village has always been at the mercy of the sword for the 3rd year. Many years pass, and the narrator continues logging into his diary. After courting Rema for 2 years, they get married, marking the happiest day of his life. However, despite the happiness, he can't shake the feeling that he's not in a typical relationship. It's been 5 years since the stranger was welcomed into the village, and he continues to swing his sword without fail every day. Haunted by thoughts about the stranger's motivations, the narrator decides to check on him daily. After 5 years, 1 month, and 12 days of practicing with the sword, the narrator goes in to check up on the swordsman. Days turn into months, and in a blink of an eye, it's been 6 years, 2 months, and 18 days since the swordsman started his daily routine. Even as the days have been snowy, the swordsman's desire to practice remains strong, unfazed by the narrator's growing family. In the midst of the swordsman's continued dedication, the narrator welcomes his first child with Rema. The townspeople celebrate the event, but the swordsman remains undeterred, choosing to persist in wielding his sword instead. He continues to wield his sword, but what for? Then came a day when our narrator didn't check up on the village swordsman, but he's still probably swinging his sword, right? If there's one thing you could expect him to do, it's wielding the sword. Now, the narrator has grown old, his children having kids of his own. He's woken up one day by Yanziak, his grandson, as his daughter Laura informs him that they'll be visiting the village market. She invited him to come along with them, but he refused, choosing to walk around the village instead. Now, he's regarded as the village chief, revered by the people. Just like anything that time touches, the village has also changed, except for the lone swordsman. Stopping by the rugged gate of the swordsman, the village president thought to himself that it's been 37 years since this stranger stepped foot in her village. Just as he laid eyes on what was beyond the doors, his eyes widened in shock, and he came running towards the swordsman, who was kneeling on the ground unmoving, with his sword still in his hand. With long gray hair and worn-out clothes, the swordsman died with his eyes wide open, yet his grip on the sword was firm as ever. The narrator was awestruck with this view, a silver light emanating from the swordsman now gone. He then quickly laid his body to rest, closed his eyes, and told the swordsman that he hoped he went to a good place. And that's exactly when a blonde-haired, blue-eyed prince woke up with a sweat. What kind of inception is this? Entered the Farreira estate, famous for several nobles' places of training. It sits in the southern part of the Hao kingdom, but what this region is most known for are the Farreira baron's children, at least according to what the guard said. What's more, according to him, Lady Curl is famous throughout the lands and she received her official title despite being 11. Another guard asked if she was appointed by the royal family, but the first one stressed that it was because she's a sorcerer, which is pretty rare and special, even rarer than high magicians. Then again, the third guard says it doesn't matter anyway because the firstborn is Lord Airen, which left the two guards speechless. So, what's his deal and what's with that reaction? Well, turns out Airen is pretty infamous, and the rookie guard already knew about it. Duchess Keel, commonly known as Princess Curl, is known for her magical prowess, but her brother Airen is more well known throughout the land. Here are the nickname, Lazy Lord, because he could not do anything after the passing of his mother at a young age. From this tragic event, he refused to partake in any activities and just slept, staying cooped up in his room, which is where he got his moniker. Can't blame him, really. The lad watched his mother die right in front of him. As the three guards continue their idle banter, their attention is caught by a voice from behind, and it's none other than Princess Curl Farreira and her mother Amelia, the second wife. Princess Curl, a blue-eyed blonde with her hair partially covering the right side of her face, stood glaring at the guards as if her intimidating aura is not enough. She also questioned these guards who taught them to play hooky while still working. But they were all quick to bow and ask for forgiveness. Now, that is quite the 90-degree bow they got there. Princess Curl was relentless. She continued to grill them about what they were sorry for, asking what they did wrong, until her mother intervened and saved these guards' butts with a sly smile and a sideward glance. She asked them if they already knew what they did wrong, to which they easily agreed and bowed hastily again. Finally, the mother-daughter combo seems to be satisfied with their answers, so they walked away. As soon as they did, the guards released a sigh of relief. Thinking about the mother-daughter combo, they can't help but wonder how different Lord Airen is from them. Meanwhile, inside the palace, grunting sounds can be heard, and it's coming from the lazy Lord Airen Farreira himself. Seems he has trouble trying to sleep, which is pretty surprising since he's known to sleep by this time. The root cause of this is the recurring dream he has. He swore he could taste the tiredness in his mouth from swinging the sword, even the muscle pain that came with it. But what's most shocking is that his body is full of energy, so full of energy that he can't stop shaking. He's got to do something. With a shaking voice, he called out to someone, but his butler was quick to answer. At first, he was hesitant to say what he wanted, which left his butler feeling puzzled. Thankfully, the Duchess managed to speak a few words, asking for a sword and expressing his wish to swing it. The butler stood in silence, staring at him blankly. Nanny, did he just ask for a sword? Shocked at the request, his butler could only answer yes in a questioning manner. At the Farreira household's training hall, everyone's trying their best to focus on their respective tasks, but they can't help but notice the elephant in the room. This is not a hallucination, right? All of them are seeing the same thing, right? The whispers grew louder as Airen Farreira, along with his butler, walks into the training hall. Is this the second coming or what? The guards continue to whisper behind his back that it's difficult enough to see him as of late, but to make an appearance in the training hall is totally unheard of. They were just wondering if he was out here trying to learn how to wield the sword, when he suddenly approached the weapons displayed on the wall, eyeing the one with the biggest blade. His butler explained that there are various kinds of swords, even wooden ones. He suggested waiting for someone knowledgeable about the weapon, but Airen dismissed the suggestion and continued looking at the weapons. He chose the one with the biggest blade. By this time, the guards are pretty riled up, and one even asked his fellow guard to pinch him in the cheeks if he was dreaming. Nope, not a dream. However, a grunt left everyone distracted, and the rest of the guards were curious as they continued to eye Airen holding a sword. Even his butler was watching him closely as he shakingly gripped the heavy sword and got into position. With everything he has, he tried to swing the sword, but given his stamina and lack of knowledge about the weapon, it was flimsy at best. Many of Airen's spectators expected him to be bad at it given his history. Everybody knows that he's lazy and sleeps all the time. Seeing him come out of his room for the first time in a long while was something worth seeing. But what in tarnation made him take up sword training? One of the palace's drudges chimed in the conversation, suggesting that maybe it was because of Lord Jiren who made Airen get up on his feet. According to his neighbor, our novice swordsman was humiliated by Lord Jiren last month. So that's what happened. At least they all fought, although not everyone was in the loop since Airen was just sitting quietly at the time. Humiliation is a proven motivation after all, so can't blame him. The question is, how long can he do this? As the palace's judges went back to work, Airen continued to wield his sword while his butler side-eyed these people. They even had the audacity to say that Airen will last only 3 days doing this, while others said he'll only last 30 minutes. His butler could only look at them in disdain, thinking to himself that everyone is not the same. He then changed his focus to Airen. He told the young noble that swordsmanship takes a lot of effort, and it's not for everybody. He added that he'll put out a call tomorrow to start looking for someone to help him. But Airen was in the zone right now. With the sword in his hands, he could feel the pain all over, especially in his arms. Even he starts questioning himself on why he does this. As he continues to swing the sword with such force, despite having a frail body, he ends up being out of breath and lies on the ground panting. But why does he feel at ease? Does this dude happen to be a masochist of some sort? The more he continues to copy what the swordsman in his dream does, the more his heart's burdens lighten up. With every swing of the sword, all the bad memories and confusing thoughts disappear from his mind. He can't stop this addicting feeling. The only thing that snapped him out of this reverie is his butler, who had to physically stop him from swinging the sword since it was already sundown. What, already? Still a bit high from the feeling, Airen is confused why he was stopped until he collapsed in his butler's arms, his body giving out from exhaustion. With his vision finally focusing on the surroundings, he noticed that it was indeed sundown. While his butler worried over him, Airen wondered how the day went by so fast. Clinging to his butler, he asked why he didn't leave. His butler knew better than to leave him alone. He waited for him patiently, and even called out to him many times, but to no avail. Finally, Airen was ready to rest, so he assured his butler that what he did was good training, but it's best not to overexert himself, which he agreed not to do again. Back in his room, Airen complained about the pain in his body, thinking he couldn't do something like this. Blaming the recurring dream, he questioned how he could sleep with all this pain and heaviness. Within 5 minutes, he was out like a light. A few days later, a shocking scene continued to haunt the palace walls, this time in the dining hall. Airen gobbled his sandwich with so much gusto that even his butler still couldn't believe the prince was up on his feet and out of his room. Still shocked, the butler asked if Airen would train today as well, which the latter confirmed. Airen wondered about how he's haunted by the recurring dream of the swordsman, and how practicing with the sword relieved his pain. He took it upon himself to wield the sword, even having a moment's thought that he may be losing his mind. But whatever, it's worth a try. To continue wielding it, he needed to eat up and have more energy. Ordering more sandwiches and milk, he finally found the main character's energy they were looking for. Back in the training hall, the guards speculated if this would be the day. Many placed bets, and even the new guard joined in the loop, sharing thoughts on what would happen today. A lone hooded figure approached them from behind, an old man leaning on his walking stick, asking where the palace training grounds are located. The guards questioned him, but he reassured them that he's a wandering traveler and a former swordsman who just wants to watch from the sidelines. Proving his identity with a proper license, the guards led him to the training grounds, and off they went to the palace's training grounds. As they reached the area, the older guard exclaimed in shock, seeing none other than the once lazy Prince Airen training hard with the sword. It's already the 4th day since he started this whole gig, and much to the younger guard's happiness, Airen was still up and running. His sword practices became a betting game for many guards, and the younger guard collected his payment. He also mentioned that Airen might still be at it for a while longer, given that Lord Jiren got him real good last month. Humiliation is a good motivation, remember? As they continued to banter, a Gandalf-looking character observed and watched Airen in silence. He assessed his form, not too bad considering he started days ago, but Airen's swordsmanship was pretty lousy. At his current strength, he couldn't handle the weight of the sword at all, and he was already out of breath, indicative of his poor stamina and how badly he paced himself. The old man wondered how long he would continue at this rate, and if Lord Jiren really was the cause behind the young noble's abrupt training. Horsing around with the sword like this wasn't good, and how much mana would he use? All these thoughts ran into the old man's head, but his reverie was broken after a strong gust of wind blew in the palace grounds. One of the guards exclaimed in shock as a griffin, one of the legendary animals, flew above them, ridden by none other than Princess Colonel herself, wearing a long scowl on her face. Here's a rundown on what a griffin is: a legendary creature with the hidden wings of an eagle and the body of a lion, with a coat similar to steel. The most shocking thing is that it's not supposed to exist, it's a thing of legend. Well, that's until Princess Curl came flying with it. No biggie. She flew down in front of the guards, who were now shaking in fear at the princess's talent, her ability to move her creations at will and give life to them as if they were really alive. That's Princess Curl for you, but now they have a new fear. The princess continued to glare at the guards, even calling each of them out, including the old man, but she quickly dismissed him and focused on the guards who were slacking off during work times. She reprimanded them for playing hooky during work, emphasizing how many times she had told them not to. One guard reasoned out that he had just finished his shift, and the old man listened on, reduced to a poorly drawn side character in the panel, not even colored and sweating. The elder guard explained that he was on the afternoon shift and hadn't done anything wrong, but Princess Curl scrutinized him even more, suggesting he might be vomiting words at the spur of the moment. She knew that this guard didn't work in the training grounds and was just nosy about what's happening lately. Airen stepped up and called her attention, wondering why she was acting this way. She was silent for a moment, then looked at the guards and told her brother to stop whatever he was doing. Airen was left confused, but the princess told him to just stop it. Airen turned his back and continued practicing with the sword, which aggravated Princess Curl. She shouted at him that swordsmanship is no easy task, especially for someone like him who's been sleeping for the last few years. She questioned if he actually thought he could pull it off, comparing his skills to the rookie guards and claiming they were even better than he was. The queen, Amelia, came down with a smile, praising the guards for their hard work and telling Airen not to overwork himself. The two of them walked away, leaving the guards relieved. The griffin's loud squawk made them jump in frustration, wondering why the princess didn't bring her creation with her. The old man smiled, thinking about the famed princess and how it seemed like a storm had passed. The old man shifted his focus to Airen, assessing that, despite the fiasco, the young noble continued to practice with the sword, unfazed by the things happening around him. With this in mind, the old man decided to observe Airen for a few more days. Suddenly it's mealtime, and in the palace hallways quiet footsteps were heard. The owner of these footsteps was Princess Curl, trying to sneak in. Airen's butler appeared from behind her, telling her that the young master was already sleeping. Startled, Curl pouted, saying she had something to say, but the butler insisted it would be better to wait until he woke up. The princess, emitting her power and a strong gust of wind, asked if the butler dared to talk back to her, a literal power-tripping scene. The butler, shocked, was surprised and scared of the princess's menacing aura. Thankfully, Curl quickly dissipated it, telling him not to tell anyone what happened. Come morning, a red cat dressed in a suit with a bowler hat played the flute by Airen's bedside table. Waking up, Airen was surprised to see this new addition to his room. He noticed a letter at the foot of the cat, opened it, and read that it came from his sister. She apologized for what she said back in the training grounds, expressing concern for him. She left a doll with relaxation properties, hoping it would help with Airen's recovery. In the letter, she instructed him not to tell their mother that she stopped by, as Queen Amelia had already told her not to. After reading the letter, Airen flipped the back to discover more. This time, it was the Queen's writing, telling Airen that if his sister bothered him too much, he should inform her. She also suggested keeping this a secret from Curl. Airen thought to himself, with a smile, that both his mother and sister cared about him so much. While petting the cat, he considered the surprising care from his family, even though he had done nothing but sleep for the past decade. As if on cue, a knock came on his door, and his butler informed him that breakfast was ready. Thinking of breakfast, Airen had an idea and decided to join his family for the meal. His butler, with quick strides, hurriedly went off with a smile, thinking that the prince had changed for the better. It wasn't every day that the whole royal family came together for meals, especially not with Airen present. Curl kept piling food onto his plate, and their parents looked on, smiling. The queen was about to tell Curl to take it easy when Airen spoke, thanking both his parents and Curl. Despite having done nothing but sleep in the past, he expressed his apologies and love for them. His father echoed the sentiment of love, and Airen apologized for causing concern, but his father quickly dismissed that. Since Airen had started the conversation, his father brought up the topic of him practicing swordsmanship skills, like his mother. He reminded Airen not to overwork himself, applauding his efforts despite starting late. Airen replied that he wasn't overworking himself, and there was no need to worry about him. Thinking about the recurring dream, he thought to himself that this kind of strain was nothing compared to that. Now back at the training grounds, the guards wondered how Airen was still at it after 2 weeks. He hadn't missed a day of training, and they questioned if this once lazy prince had truly changed for the better. One guard suggested he might tire of it soon, but it didn't seem like Airen was about to give up any time soon. After their conversation, one guard noticed a hooded old man sitting in the corner. He informed the other guard that the old man was just there to watch and had the approval of the higher-ups, so they didn't need to bother him. The old man, with his eyes closed and deep in thought, reflected on the past 10 days of observing Airen's training. Initially, he thought Airen's motivation was fueled by pride and inferiority, which seemed insufficient. However, he realized he was wrong. Despite having no formal sword training, Airen showed no signs of irritation during rigorous training. The old man compared Airen's training to a blacksmith hammering steel every day, displaying a steadfast work ethic and willpower. He marveled at Airen's potential, considering that, with the right mentor, he could become one of the greatest swordsmen. To this day, putting all of his weight on the sword, Airen continues to keep on practicing his swing. Many of the palace guards, as well as the hooded old man, watched. This time, the old man called out to the arena's keeper, asking him if Airen has any history of private swordsmanship. The arena keeper only told him that Baron Airen's father is setting up a tutor for him. Seeing all his efforts, it'd be a shame to put it all to waste if he wasn't guided accordingly. The arena keeper also added that he was curious about who could be his tutor. He answered that from what he remembered, it would be Sir Orlan Jukrin. No, the arena keeper was shocked to see the old man so close to him with a grave look on his face. To be fair, he has grave room for concern. According to the old man, this supposed teacher Airen is a notorious drunk who has a habit of drinking before giving formal training. Because of this, he does nothing but yell at the soldiers and neophytes. That drunkard is no good as a teacher for a budding swordsman like Airen. The old man quickly turned around and with a stride thought to himself that he needs to act fast. A precious gem like Airen shouldn't fall under the hands of a negligent tutor like him. He hurriedly went off to see his father, and in no time at all, reached his office. Back in his father's office, he was kind enough to hear what the old man had to say and was bewildered by what he heard. He asked if it was all true, to which the old man grimly confirmed. It was about Airen, who actually had the potential to be an expert swordsman. Who would have thought? Baron was shocked and pleased and at the same time worried. After all, the old man already presented him with a letter of recommendation for Airen to attend the Kronos Swordsmanship Academy. It's like the Swordsmanship Academy for the elite of the land. Only the most exceptional talents can get into the prestigious academy. It doesn't matter if you're from royalty or not. And if you ever did get accepted in Kronos, you'll be treated much better than most nobles. That's how elite this school is. Its reputation is even greater than that of the Royal Academy. Sure, it's one thing to get accepted into the school, but it's an entirely different matter to become a trainee there. Can Airen, who just started his swordsmanship training a few weeks ago, manage to hold out? This is the thought that bothers Baron the most. I mean, just look at Airen, even at the novice level yet. Still, Baron decided to call his son to the office to inform Airen that he received a recommendation letter to attend Chronos Swordsmanship Academy. Obviously, Airen is the most shocked to even be considered in such a top-notch school. But like every good father, Baron didn't force him to make a decision right then and there. He only expressed his support on whatever Airen may choose and that it's his call to make. Gon's dad could learn a thing or two from Baron's parenting, don't you think? Now back to Airen. Naturally, he was dumbfounded by this, and just told his father that he'll think it through for the next couple of days. In his room, Airen sat contemplating in the comfort of his luxurious bed about what transpired a while ago. But his main thought was on whether or not he had the capacity to do this. Could he? Well, our boy hasn't been the most active in the last 10 years, only sleeping until God knows when. And now, an opportunity to attend a swordsmanship academy. But then again, if he didn't have the potential, this opportunity wouldn't have come, right? Ripping his bedsheets firmly, he decided that he doesn't want to spend the rest of his days lying down in despair anymore. He came to this decision not just for himself, but for his loving family too. Attaboy, Airen! And just like that, Airen went directly to Baron's office, announcing the firm determination that he'd like his hand at the Chronos Swordsmanship Academy. Next thing we know, Airen is already saying goodbye to his family from the entrance of the palace grounds. With murmurs surrounding the prince's abrupt decision, with tears in his mother's eyes, she bade him farewell while his father looked on fondly. The Curl wished him safe travels on the road, was only his butler, and Airen in the carriage. With the former asking Airen if it's the first time he's leaving the family estate. Thinking about it, Airen said that it was indeed the first time he left the family estate. While he was busy staring outside, his butler pulled something from his belongings and told Airen that Curl wanted him to have something of hers, a necklace with a pendant fashioned into a small sword. Leaving Airen's eyes wide in shock, smiling himself, he took the necklace and thanked his sister silently. It didn't take long for the two to reach the entrance of Chronos Swordsmanship Academy, and Airen was awestruck at the towering facade filled with aspiring novices left and right. His butler was about to escort him to the entrance, but he declined, leaving the former stunned. Airen then told him that from now on, he's just a mere trainee and that he has to get used to being on his own. Hearing all this, his butler couldn't help but be proud of the young master. With one last look, Airen told him to take care and proceeded to go inside. His butler bowed humbly and wished him well, while Airen continued walking with a nervous stride. It's like the first day of school, and of course, it's nerve-wracking and exciting. As he neared the entrance to the academy, Airen saw that there was another boy before him, escorted by two older guards. The boy, a blue-haired talent wearing a smirk, was introduced by one of the guards as Lord Brett Lloyd, the son of Count Lloyd, one of the most esteemed families in the Givra Kingdom. What's more, Brett was also recommended to the academy by Sir Cole Sweetie, one of the palace guards. They welcomed the young noble, saying how honored they were to welcome such a figure. Just then, the other guard, one with a vertical scar on his left eye sporting red hair with streaks of white, noticed Airen approaching. As he did so, Airen was quick to introduce himself as the son of Baron Farreira and presented the recommendation letter from the wandering knight, Sir Bran Somerville. Turns out, the old man's alleged knight after all, and like what they did to Brett, the first knight also welcomed Airen with open arms. He told him that they're aware of who Sir Bran Somerville is, an active-duty knight who has been subduing creatures for decades. The knight also told Airen that if his recommendation came from Sir Brand, there's no doubt he'd pass easily. After that, he directed Airen to the auditorium, wishing him luck, walking away and thanking him for the encouragement. As soon as Airen was out of earshot, the red-haired guard said out loud that he didn't expect Sir Brand to be the type to write letters of recommendation for anyone. His fellow guard agreed, especially not for the lazy prince. To this, the red-haired guard asked who the lazy prince was, and the other was quick to explain about the lazy young lord of the Farreira family, Airen. His reputation sure preceded him, so here's hoping his reputation improves from here on out. Hearing all this, the red-haired guard couldn't help but agree, seeing how Airen's physique is subpar, making him look weaker in person. So, what exactly did the old man see in him? By now, Airen has reached the door to the auditorium and, with a gulp, pushed the wooden door open. In doing so, he was met with many glares and judging looks, including the blue-haired boy from before and a girl with short, bright red hair. Another girl with long silver locks tied into a ponytail only gave him so much as a side glance. But Airen had no time to think since he was distracted by the figure approaching the podium. It was none other than the red-haired guard from before. As soon as he reached the podium, he announced that there are 400 preliminary trainees present there and introduced himself as Ahmed. From today onwards, Ahmed would serve as their instructor, teaching and evaluating their progress. From his position, Ahmed gave a quick scan of the crowd and noted to himself that there are several promising candidates for this year, including the blue-haired boy, the silver-haired girl, and the girl with bright hair. Out of all these candidates, the one that stood out the most is the silver-haired girl named Ilya Lindsay from the genius family of Lindsay. It's been told that she's the second genius from their clan, making Ahmed wonder just how talented she is, hearing that she's more gifted than her older brother. Prospective waifu detected, but Ahmed wasn't the only one looking at Ilya. Brett was also glaring at her from a distance, wondering why she had to attend the academy since she was already talented enough as she is. With these resentful thoughts in himself, acquiring the top position is no longer an easy win for him. Watch out, we got a pretty ambitious lad right here. Continuing with his speech, Ahmed told everyone that they were all preliminary trainees and not official ones yet. Furthermore, he reminded them how challenging the swordsmanship training is at the academy. Only if they manage to pass the 2 upcoming exams and hold out for a year will they be considered official trainees. But then again, once they become official, training will only get harder. After saying this, Ahmed made them leave their belongings and follow him outside, saying there was a place he wanted them to see. Once outside, they gathered on an oval track, and Ahmed, now bare from his suit of armor, explained that it's the location for physical training sessions to improve cardio and muscular endurance. It's relatively flat, though there are a few slopes that will serve as their running course. Without any warning, Ahmed came to a running start, dashing forward, signaling the start of their endurance test. As if that wasn't fast enough, he decided to quicken the pace, zooming past the front line of trainees. Still, he decided to go faster. He was already a few paces ahead of them, while the rest of the trainees scrambled to catch up. Many were already panting hard, including Airen and a few others. Rhett was already thinking to himself that he needs to maintain his pace since this is a long-distance run. Running from the back, he looked back and saw that the lazy prince was already lagging far behind on his knees and sweating buckets. Rhett thought to himself that Airen wouldn't get that main position for nothing. Meanwhile, Airen was already deep in thought about how hard the first task is, huffing extra hard while doing so. While the rest of the trainees ran further from him, on the opposite side of the track, Ahmed quickly noticed Airen had stopped, but he didn't comment and continued to run further. As they continued to run, Airen started to get up, his whole body trembling, still panting, only to take another step forward and continue to run. Seeing this, Brett was beyond shocked, while Ahmed only smirked at the young noble's determination. Airen thought to himself that this hardship is nothing compared to what the swordsman in his dream went through. He wanted to be like him, and on the same level as the swordsman in his dream. To do that, Airen told himself that he needs to overcome his past self, the lazy lord. On the side, one of the guards who welcomed Airen, the one with moss-colored hair, was also watching the endurance test like Ahmed. He was also rid of his armor, and was observing Airen, surprised that our young hero pushed through despite being on his knees and out of breath. That's our main character for you. However, this guard was suddenly alarmed at Airen's condition. He was already coughing unnaturally and was close to losing consciousness. Meanwhile, Ahmed and the rest of the trainees were catching up behind Airen as our hero took a stumble, startling the approaching bunch. Fortunately, this other guard made a run for it, and quickly caught Airen as he was about to be run over by the rest of the batch. Taking a closer look at Airen, the guard thought to himself that Airen didn't just faint. He pushed his body way past its limits, resulting in him losing consciousness. That's next-level effort. Still, this guard couldn't help but wonder at this curious kid as he lay panting with his eyes closed shut. Airen woke up with a start, quickly getting up from bed and scanning the room, wondering where he was. A voice from his left told him that he was just fine and introduced himself as the instructor of Rune Tar Hall, as well as the person in charge of the recovery room. Airen was quick to say his thanks, to which the instructor said he should dang right be grateful because he just made our hero recover faster. With a smile, he also told Airen that maybe they'll be seeing each other more frequently, which Airen didn't take as a joke. Right after, he handed Airen a scroll, which turns out to be the ranking of the test. But he was also quick to say that it isn't part of the finals and midterm exams that will dictate if they made it as official trainees or not, among other things. The endurance test they did was just a quick look to see the candidates' current levels, and no surprise there. Airen saw himself rank 400th in the test. The instructor then tried to console him, saying that ranking high on the list boosts one's esteem, while those ranked lower are motivated to work even harder. Plus, this ranking is bound to change in a year, he said. But the instructor is quite surprised at how calm Airen is. In fact, he doesn't seem to be fazed that he's the last one in the ranking. Seeing that Airen seems to be okay, the instructor was quick to shove Airen out of the recovery room, and off his way he went. Come the next day, the trainees were already seated at the lecture hall, and the moss-haired guard greeted them a good morning from the podium with a smile. He seemed pleased to know that most of the preliminary students slept fairly well and introduced himself as Karaka, who will serve as their instructor for today. Karaka quickly presented to them a new schedule they will follow for the day, including getting up and having breakfast from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock. This was followed by a morning training session until noon. From there, they were given an hour's break and would start afternoon training at 13 o'clock until 17 o'clock, followed by a 1-hour dinner until 18 o'clock. After dinner, they would have a 1-hour mental training and liberal art class. After they finished the schedule, they were free to do as they please. Additionally, starting today, Karaka also said that all training halls, fitness rooms, and other training facilities would be open for their use, especially for those who wished to train more anytime. Hearing this, Airen thought to himself that he could resume his swordsmanship training, but his thoughts were cut short after Karaka said that weapon training is not allowed. A swordsmanship academy that doesn't allow sword training? Come on now. The day flew by, and suddenly dust was already settling on the palace grounds. Rhett is seen walking, accompanied by his mean girls, for other trainees. As they were walking, one of them asked him if he found the liberal arts class boring, adding that the academy is a bit much by making them take another class after a whole day's worth of training. But Brett only kept smiling. One of the other trainees countered, saying that the first training is having a hard time because he didn't understand the lesson. Soon enough, they reached the door to one of the training facilities. Inside, they were shocked to see that the area is a lot bigger than they thought, and that it was already full of other trainees busy with weight training. As they walked around, looking at the other trainees, one of them commented on how everybody is hard at work, while the other one said that it was only a matter of time before they dropped one by one. However, Rhett's attention is directed toward Ilya, who's pretty busy lifting weights that look a little too heavy for any girl out there. But then again, she's a genius prodigy after all. While Ilya is busy squatting those heavy barbells, Brett could only look on and gulp in fear after seeing her in action, admitting that her presence overwhelms him. Brett's train of thought continued to spiral, thinking that Ilya is in no way on the same level as they are, making him feel inferior and not jealous at all. It's like there's a whole gap of stairs between him and Ilya, a different level from the others. Even Brett's clique was surprised at her ability to lift such weights with that body. But the other trainees gasped in shock, seeing that the lazy lord is also busy doing weightlifting, but on a much lighter scale. The two trainees continued to make fun of Airen, saying how he wasted his life sleeping instead of training back then. But our hero paid them no mind. They continued to make fun of him, saying how he will faint again. When Ilya notices Airen's attempts, Rhett told the other two trainees to cut it out, and told them that they were leaving. This time, Brett noticed the short-haired girl with bright red hair also busy doing hammer curls by the bench. Rhett knew that this girl's name was Judith and that she was the only commoner among the nobles. How could he not know her? She's the one who beat Brett for second place, and this blue-haired boy doesn't let things like that go. Your boy's shooting daggers in Judith's direction in his thoughts, promising to never let her get second place again, and emitting a menacing aura when Judith calls him out on his BS. The aggravated girl called him out to stop staring, which caught Brett by surprise. Is this commoner talking to me? Judith is not one to back down, and yes, she's definitely talking to him. She told him to beat it since he's making her lose focus. Of course, Brett's small fry henchmen are quick to jump to his side, calling Judith out for her brashness and for not paying respect to Brett. But this red-haired girl only asked them if it's cute just following Brett around. One of them got pretty heated and demanded Judith to apologize to him immediately. But she just kept adding fuel to the fire, even telling him that his mouth stinks. Just as he was about to retaliate, Judith told him to shut up while focusing on one corner of the training area. Even Brett got curious and also turned to look. What they both saw shocked them to the core. Ilya approached Airen, pulling him aside for a quick talk. Even Airen himself got pretty shocked, the bar still in hand from their area. No one can actually hear the conversation between the two, with them whispering and Ilya pointing something out to our hero. The whole training hall was silent. You could actually hear the tumbleweeds rolling. Airen and Ilya's conversation soon ended with her walking away while Airen bowed to her shyly. As soon as she slammed the doors shut of the training hall, Airen now has a new concern, various eyes staring at him. But when he looked back to see all of them, they averted their gaze and continued working out. This scene looks like it came straight out of a classic slapstick comedy. Judith and Brett were both thinking the same thing. They couldn't hear what the two said. So Judith, impulsive as she is, got up and dropped the dumbbell on one of Brett's henchmen and walked straight toward Airen. She called him out, but Airen, shocked for the second time today, was too stunned while Judith, as impatient as ever, told him that he should respond when someone talks to him. So Airen was quick to get up and talk. However, Judith straight up told him that she was not interested in him and that he should tell her right now. Huh? Airen is still dumbfounded. Well, turns out Judith wants to know what Ilya Lindsay had to say to him. So what exactly did the top student say to the one who ranked last? Shocked, Judith was annoyed and glaring at Airen. Did Ilya Lindsay really just walk over to Airen just to tell him how to use the equipment properly and to correct his posture? Who would believe that? But Airen swore that he was telling the truth. So Judith had to ask if the two of them knew each other from before or if they were lovers. But Airen said that this is the first time he even saw her today. Judith seemed satisfied with Airen's boring answers, so she turned to go. But before she stomped away, she told him to loosen up since the other trainees might think she's bullying him. Airen just thought to himself how brash Judith was, and as he was about to resume his training, remembering Ilya's advice, he got cut off again, and this time by Brett. Like Judith, he was quick to ask what Ilya had to say to him before and what he and Judith talked about. Later on, just like that, 1 month passed by, and as usual, Brett stood drinking his water surrounded by the same henchmen from before. Though there were only 3 of them now, they were outside the training halls, and just a few feet away from them is Airen practicing his weightlifting while Ilya watches over him, correcting his form and coaching him. As Airen struggles with the squat, Brett turns to himself, saying that he won't concern himself over these two. Admittedly, he also thought to himself that he'll never win against Ilya and that she is without a doubt the top trainee for this year. But for Airen, there's not much to spread to him. He's still the last-ranked trainee out of all of them. If anything, Brett's pretty convinced that Airen bribed his way to get a slot at the academy. He thinks that Airen, who has done nothing but be lazy for his whole life, can never reach the level Brett's currently at, even with Ilya's coaching and encouragement. Brett really believes that sooner or later, Airen will return to being the lazy prince, which is his old self. Brett then told his pack that they'll be heading out of a track while thinking to himself that he was settling for second place. But as he approached the track, he was annoyed to see that Judith beat him to it, and was already running hard. One of his henchmen can't help but praise Judith's intensity, and how she always got to the track first. His other henchman only commented that it's only natural that she works this hard, she's a commoner after all. But Brett was already pissed, and told them that they'll start running. Anyway, they were shocked to hear this, but with a glare. Brett told them that they could follow slowly if they find it too hard. Otherwise, he told them with a menacing aura that they should run after him as if their lives depended on it. This kid sure needs to bump his pep talk. Then came 3 months later. Ahmed and Karaka dropped by the training halls to see that only a few trainees remained, many notwithstanding the harsh training in the academy. But Karaka said with a smile that compared to last year, there are a lot more of them this time around. The big three, Judith, Brett, and Ilya, are still going at it at their own pace, with Judith doing weightlifting, Brett running track, and Ilya with her own exercises. And then there's also the lazy. Nope, not anymore. Can't call Airen lazy anymore, can we? Not after all the hard work he put through. The next day, they were all gathered in the lecture hall when Ahmed made a big announcement. It was time for their midterm evaluations. Many of them were surprised while Ahmed continued to explain that for this evaluation, they will undergo a certain course. To pass it, they just need to complete the course within a certain time frame. Seeing the track, many were already airing their frustration and dread at the difficult facets bound in the course. Even Judith herself was frowning at it. However, Ahmed continued to explain by saying that the course is nothing out of the ordinary, and is a culmination of the things they have been doing for the past 3 months, which will include running and swimming. The actual course will serve as the evaluation, and as long as they finish it within the time limit, they're all good. Plus, the good part is that rankings don't matter in this evaluation. And here's the fun part. Ahmed also said that the academy head will be giving out a reward just to boost morale. No biggie. The midterm evaluations will commence 10 days from now, exactly at 9 in the morning. To give focus to the evals, there are no classes, and the trainees are free to do as they please. With that, he wished them the best of luck. As usual, Brett's henchmen were quick to question their dear pack leader if they could finish the evaluations. One of them even said that, of course, Red can do this. He is Lord Brett Lloyd, after all. But while they were bickering, Rhett was deep in thought, thinking about Ilya and Judith while also contemplating a few others. Still, he was confident that he'd get into the top 5 spots, and there aren't any risks for this. However, he couldn't help this shaking and uneasy feeling as he glared toward Airen, who was busy running track. It's a different day, and most of the trainees are pretty busy doing their own thing, with Judith focusing on breaking the new PDAR and weightlifting. She was happy with what she accomplished, and was about to call it a day when she heard barfing sounds from the corner. Looking at the direction of the sounds, she saw that it came from Airen, who was on his knees panting and out of breath. Judith thought to herself that Airen is pushing himself beyond his limit once again, and made her think about when he first stepped foot in the academy. Compared to back then, she thought of how Airen improved tremendously and asked herself how he's able to accomplish such a feat, clenching her fist tightly. Judith can't help but compare if her willpower is lesser than that of the lazy lord. So she did what she had to do. She resumed training. She's not having it. Days flew by so fast that suddenly it's only a day before the midterm evaluations. Karaka wonders out loud how many trainees will be able to pass the course, and Ahmed estimated that there would probably be 30 of them. Hearing this, the head swordmaster popped out in between the 2 instructors, which surprised Ahmed, asking him what he's doing there. The head swordmaster of Kronos Academy, Ian, a bald man with a white mid-length mustache and beard, told the 2 instructors that he fancied seeing how the trainees of this year were doing rather than hearing it from somebody else. After that, he quickly greeted Karaka, whom he knows as the new assistant instructor from the Kingdom of Adan. While they were shaking each other's hands, the headmaster was quick to ask Karaka how old he thinks he is, and the younger instructor, obviously flustered, answered 55. Well, it seemed to flatter the old man since he broke into a smile, telling him that he hates outright flattery. At the same time, he'll double his wage. Karaka only smiled and thanked him, but in reality, Ian is actually 90 years old, and Ahmed told him from the side not to believe what the head swordmaster says because he doesn't handle the finances. Now, back to the trainees. Even the headmaster himself noticed that this year's batch of trainees is a lot different from last year's. Is this the result of Ahmed and Karaka's combined teachings? But Karaka only said that he's given him way too much credit. Suddenly Ian's attention was drawn by a certain trainee, and Karaka noticed. Following his line of sight, he was quick to explain that the trainee they were looking at is the second genius of the Lindsay family, Ilya, who was busy doing lifts. He further elaborated that she's the top student among the trainees and is a prodigy who lives up to her reputation. That may be true and all, but the headmaster sees something different in her. While not taking his eyes off Ilya, he pitied how she was so obsessed with the path chosen for her instead of pursuing what she wanted. Hearing this, Ahmed was surprised, but there's more where they came from. The headmaster also said that he hopes she could get rid of this useless obsession one day and questions how society pushed her to become as such. Then he was quick to see Judith doing barbell squats and only said that Judith is overworking herself. He then asked the instructors if they already warned her about overexerting herself, which they did. Karaka even added that Judith is the most hard-headed out of all the trainees in this batch. To this, the headmaster told them that they should still warn her and started walking towards Judith, while also saying that it'd be a waste if she gets burned out. Another reason why he wanted to approach her is to find out the reason why she works so hard. With a few strides, the headmaster is already in front of Judith, but their conversation can't be heard. Karaka wonders out loud if he could stop Judith from overworking, and Ahmed was quick to say that surely she'll listen to the headmaster's warning. But as soon as he turned his back and walked away, Judith continued with her workout. Damn, this girl really doesn't listen. Ahmed was just about to question the headmaster when the latter told them that Judith is indeed stubborn, and will only stop exerting herself if he gave her a good reason to do so. The headmaster quickly changed the topic by asking where Airen is. Amid a quick glance across the halls, only the sounds of the various pieces of workout equipment can be heard, with Karaka and Ahmed standing silently side by side. Ahmed asked how long it's been, and Karaka answered that it's been 30 minutes since the headmaster observed Airen, who was busy doing barbell squats. Without saying anything, the old man quickly turned away and told the two not to bother Airen. They clarified the headmaster's wishes, of which Ian told them not to stop him unless Airen himself chose to give up. He was quick to assess that Airen has complete control of his body. When night came, Airen plopped down on his bed full of muscle patches to help relieve the pain from his workouts. While lying, he contemplated on the things that happened in the past few days, such as his fellow trainees who mocked and ignored him, namely Judith and Brett, are now starting to become more conscious of him, which is such a weird feeling. Better is the top training Ilya, who's lending a hand to Airen's workouts. Why is she doing that? She's not the type to just reach out and help other people out of pity. As soon as he closed his eyes, Airen fell into a deep sleep and dreamed that he was in the arms of a woman clad from head to toe in a long flowing red cloak. But the woman told Airen in the dream that it's been a while, and suddenly, he remembered why he never left his bed, to be in the arms of his beloved mother. But Airen knows this figure isn't really his mother, though its embrace is as warm as ever, which made him think that it would be nice to just fall asleep all over again like before. However, a sudden spark was ignited that caught Airen's attention, along with a canal-blinding light, and it soon revealed as the swordsman in his recurring dreams slashing the red cloak of the figure that surrounded Airen. Looking at him in awe, Airen got up and was about to move closer to the long-haired swordsman when a hand reached out and grabbed his arm, stopping him from doing so. Airen gently removed the figure's grasp from his arm while also thanking him with a smile, saying that he must go now. And just like that, Airen woke up with a different aura. He seems to be generating a different kind of energy that's full of intent and determination. What will Airen do next? Airen walks into the course on the day of the evaluation looking more beaten up than usual, which earned him a few whispers behind his back. Some even think that maybe he overrated himself this time. Even one of Brett's henchmen, Brett, only stared at Airen in silence, then shifted his gaze to another trainee who looks a little worse for wear, Judith. Judging from her looks, she once again overworked herself and is in the worst condition she's ever been in. Seeing this, Brett smirked, thinking the second place is as good as his right now, as long as he doesn't let his guard down. Ilya also threw a glance at Airen, who's been pretty quiet the whole time, but everyone's attention is now focused on Ahmed. With only 5 minutes before the midterm evaluations, Ahmed went over the rules one last time, explaining that it has 4 stages with different instructors set for each course. Once they finish the target point, they're free to proceed with the next location and challenge. He also stressed that this exam is based on an absolute grading scale, and everybody should focus on their own progress and show the instructors how much they've improved. The trainees already got into position at the first location, with everyone feeling the intensity of the activity. For the first challenge, the trainees were made to do push press, and contrary to what Ahmed said, Brett's being nosy about others' business once again and is looking at how fast Ilya performs the challenge. Looking at her while finishing his own, Brett thought to himself that he'll never be as fast as her, then thought that he still has a run for second place. Rhett and his boys were still struggling hard to finish the first task when one of his henchmen noticed something strange that made Brett look as well, and boy was he not pleased with what he saw. Airen was doing the fastest push presses out there with a beaten-down body. How does he do it? Even Karaka, who was overseeing the location, was surprised at his intensity. But Airen was purely focused and didn't slow down or take a break at all. Seeing this, Brett was shocked, thinking that Airen wasn't pacing himself well for the challenge. Did he want to burn out that fast? As he was busy looking at Airen, Ilya already finished her set, leaving him surprised as usual. But he was even more surprised when the instructor called out Airen's name, announcing that he was also done with the challenge. With one last huff, Airen dropped the barbell and walked towards the second location. Many of the trainees were shocked at his progress. Even after he finished the first task, Airen still hasn't said a single word and proceeded to the next location, close behind Ilya. Some of them just ignored him, while others claimed that he'll get disqualified anyway, so it wouldn't matter. But unbeknownst to them, Airen could hear what everyone was saying behind his back as he walked towards the second challenge, which were box jumps. He immediately started on the box jumps, thinking that if they were surprised at his performance so far, more so him. Like the dude practically spent his last few years sleeping, so how was he pulling this off? Airen thought that there was something different about his body today, like it was burning, but he's in complete control and doesn't feel like he's nearing burnout. This made him think that maybe he will if he went faster. But no, he needs to do more. He can do more, faster, more with everything he's got. He managed to finish doing box jumps at an alarming speed. Even Ahmed is pretty shocked at this, and just like that, he announced Airen's completion of the second task. Hearing this, Brett looked scared, but he didn't have enough time to focus on him since he got distracted by a loud yell from behind. Judith is in overdrive mode, doing her best to finish the first half as the headmaster looked on. Then came stage 3, which is long-distance running. By this time, it's only Ilya leading the run, with Airen close behind her while panting. Behind her, Airen thought to himself that there was something strange, a different feeling that made him want to beat Ilya in the course. As he gritted his teeth to overtake her, another figure crept up fast behind him, sprinting. He was surprised to see that it was Judith, because the overworked trainee even managed to overtake Ilya, which surprised Airen. With Judith leading stage 3, she thought to herself that she wouldn't lose. With every step, she looked back on everything she did to get here, even remembering how she got dissed when people heard she applied for Kronos Academy. These malicious voices told Judith that she's delusional and that it's too big for her boots, but she persevered, fueled by her want to get accepted into the academy and pure hard work. She continued thinking to herself that she will never allow anyone to beat her, ever. With a shout, Judith yelled that she won't lose to anyone, just in time for her to reach stage 4, which is long-distance swimming. Judith dived with much gusto into the waters and continued swimming with such intensity. Suddenly she felt it, the stabbing pain, a cramp on her left leg. Why now of all times? But are we even surprised, since she's been going at it too hard? Despite the pain, Judith still continued to swim in the water with tears in her eyes, and in a flash, she was surprised to see Ilya already overtaking her so easily. As she looked at Ilya's back, who was moving further and further away from her, Judith thought to herself that even though she knew she worked herself too hard, but even with all that hard work, is it really not possible to beat Ilya this time? Judith's other leg starts to cramp too as she continues to look at Ilya's back. Judith cries in frustration, and she now starts to give in to her exhaustion. She stops paddling and soon finds herself sinking deep into the dark waters of the lake. However, she was broken out of her reverie with a splash when suddenly a hand reached out and pulled her from under the water. With her eyes still closed, Judith is conscious that someone is dragging her out of the water, strong muscles gripping her firmly. She gives out a loud cough as her rescuer continues to swim. Now, Judith slowly opens her eyes and sees that it's Airen who came to her rescue. But what about the evaluations?